Ah, yes, here we are. It's raining. Raining very hard. I'm just standing barely at the inside of my garage. You can see behind me a little bit the garden. Anywho, here's another session of check-in. Let's talk about dreams. How does one lucid dream? I was having a dream the other night. I just let myself go, you know? I went with the dreams as they came. And in this particular dream, I was in the apartment of a former friend. And it started off with me just walking down the street. You know, I woke into this dream just walking down the street, and I was far from home. And I looked around at the neighborhood that I was in, and I recognized my former friend's house. He no longer lives there. And I know the person who owns the house. So I walked in, I knocked, she let me in. We spoke, and she let me crash in what was formerly his room. And I lay down and began to rest. And just as I was on the edge of sleep in my dream, there was a banging at the front door of the house. An insistent banging, a knocking hard. So I sprung up from my bed and I ran downstairs to the door. And then I stopped. And in that moment that I stopped, I thought about the former friend. I realized anyone that wanted to come in would have their own key. The people that live downstairs have their own key. The landlord has their own key. Someone who no longer lives there would not have their own key. And he's banging at the door. That's when I realized I was dreaming. Before, I was on automatic. And in that moment, I said to myself, in the dream, I said, I don't have to open the door. And the dream was mine. I became lucid in that dream by thinking about what was happening in the dream, by reasoning. Sometimes you can awaken yourself to lucidity within a dream in this way, by recognizing what's going on in the dream and by realizing that you have a choice, you have power. And so at that moment in my dream, I turned around. I didn't answer the door. I just walked away. And the knocking continued for a few more knocks. And I just looked at it and smirked. Because I realized they couldn't get in. Because I didn't want them in. So I just went up to the room and did whatever I wanted. So here's some more ways to become lucid before you fall into a dream. When you're in your bed or on your couch or wherever you sleep, in whatever human nest you have, relax your body completely. Prepare for sleep in the best ways, turn off bright lights. Try not to have any caffeine after 1 p.m. Make your mark noon if you wake up early. By noon, don't drink any more caffeine if you're a caffeine drinker. That includes tea that has caffeine in it. And when you're ready for bed, one method to have lucid dreams is to say to yourself, I'm going to have a lucid dream tonight. Or if it's during the day, I'm going to have a lucid dream. Prepare yourself for sleep. And as you feel yourself beginning to sleep, don't move your body to wake yourself up when the dreams start to come across. Remember what I mentioned before, dreams float across almost like clouds in a sky, and don't float away on them. Keep yourself relaxed until it seems like you're being lifted into sleep and dream. Notice your awareness. Be aware. If that's difficult for you to go into your dream with awareness, keep practicing, because that will yield the greatest fruit. Now, there are some other shortcuts. There's some tricks. One of them is to hold something in your hand. Hold something in your hand. A marble, a pencil, a pen, a ball. Something in your hand. Something that's comfortable to hold. A stuffed creature, whatever. Hold something in your hand. And as you begin to fall asleep, when that falls, your half semi-conscious mind will notice it, and you'll go into your dream aware. Now here's something that you can do with a friend. If you have a trusted friend, or a lover, or a sibling, or someone that is very close to you who you trust, you can ask them to speak softly to you as you fall into your dream. So, have them with you as you begin to go into sleep, sitting up in the bed next to you, or in a chair, or on a stool, or something near your bed, or kneeling next to you as you begin to sleep. And have them gently begin to speak to you about your power. This works. This is actually how I first began to lucid dream. I was 7 years old. I used to have night terrors. They were extremely horrible. They were terrifying, and I'd wake up screaming. It's when I first began to have clairvoyant dreams. Some of my dreams would come true, and I would wake up not knowing if I was awake or asleep, and if what was going on in the dream was still happening here, and I would just be racked with terror. And my grandma would help me, talking to me about dreams. Now I have an older brother who's 8 years older than me. I got 2 older brothers, but this one is 8 years older than me, Yusuf. Yusuf was studying Mesmer, the guy that introduced mesmerism and hypnotism to the West and Europe and America. And, there's been a lot of people who have mastered hypnotism, but in any case, he was quite remarkable. And my older brother was studying various methods of hypnotism. And he asked for my consent one evening. He asked me if he could try to guide me hypnotically into a dream so that I could take control of it and I wouldn't have any more nightmares. And I said yes. Again, I'm 7 years old, and I'm like, this sounds awesome. Yeah, whatever. Let's do it. Because night terrors suck. And I had somnambulism too. I was a sleepwalker. Dreams have always been very intense for me. So in any case, I lay down that night, and my brother sat up in a chair next to me. And he began to speak to me as I fell asleep. Very softly, he'd modulated his tone very evenly, and his words were very measured. And so, I had a teddy bear. I had wanted the bear that you put a tape in, and it plays it and tells you stories, but that was horridly expensive, and my mom was able to get me an AG bear. And when you hugged AG bear, he would talk to you in bear sounds. And I loved AG Bear. And my brother says to me, AG Bear's with you in your dream. And he's real. And he's powerful. And he's a huge bear. And he's going to protect you. And I watched the film Labyrinth a lot when I was a little kid. And I hated those goblins. And so I was having this dream that I was in the labyrinth. And the Goblin King's minions were after me. And here came AG Bear. And he destroyed all the goblins. He just threw them over the walls. Just picked them up and threw them. And then I got on his back and rode away into my world. And I explored that world fully that night. And afterwards, days later, weeks later, years later, I'm still lucid dreaming. That worked. The following night, after Yusuf did that with me, of course, nightmares tried to break in. And I was going upstairs, and it was like I was in that horror film, Nightmare on Elm Street. And if you're picking up anything from this, parents, do not make your children watch horror films when they don't want to. That's a good note. So in any case, there was a lot of horror films being watched in my house as a kid, and it really impacted my dreams. But that night, when Freddy Krueger tried to come up after me on the stairs, and the stairs were sucking my feet in, I remembered that it was my dream. And I got my feet up out of the stairs, turned them into a slide, turned around, suddenly I had a katana, and I was getting ready to chop off Freddy Krueger's head. He was running from me. A couple nights after that, I had another dream. That bastard came back, and I sent a werewolf after him. So, I really love the method of having someone with you when you prepare to fall asleep and guiding you into a lucid dream. I've done it with other people since, and it works. So, happy dreaming, become your own master.